Can you believe it? This princess who rode a white horse through the Alps in the movies had her ribs crushed by a corset in reality. This girl who made the Austrian emperor fall in love at first sight was ultimately stabbed in the heart with an awl at a Geneva dock. Elizabeth of Bavaria, better known as Sisi. Her life was like a shredded fairy tale. The first half chasing butterflies, riding horses, and cracking jokes in the forests of Bavaria. The latter half locked in a gilded cage at Hofburg Palace by the crown, fighting invisible chains with travel dieting and wild horseback riding. When that assassins all pierced her chest, she might have finally felt more free than that eagle caged in Vienna's zoo. On Christmas 1837, Sisi was born at the estate of Duke Maximilian of Bavaria. Unlike in the movies, she wasn't a proper princess, just the Duke's second daughter. Her mother Ludovica was the sister of the Bavarian king, but this illegitimate status spared her from strict court education. She spent her childhood at the estate by Lake Starnberg, running barefoot through the grass, hunting with her father, swimming in the lake, even hiding in tree houses to read. While her sister Helena wore puffed skirts learning court etiquette, Sisi was jumping fences on a pony, her skirt stained with grass juice and mud. This wild freedom ended abruptly in 1853. That year, Austrian Emperor Franz Joseph came to Bavaria for a marriage interview, originally to marry Helena, but spotted Sisi climbing an apple tree during a picnic. Legend says Franz told his mother Empress Sophie on the spot, either her or no one. 3 months later, the 16-year-old Sisi walked into Vienna's Hofburg Palace, in a wedding dress trailing the floor, becoming Empress of Austria-Hungary. The early days were like a fairy tale. Franz was obsessed with her hair, reportedly 70 centimeters long, requiring 3 hours to comb daily, allowed her to ride horses at court, even sneaked out with her to watch operas. But this sweetness was soon crushed by his mother, Empress Sophie. Sophie was Franz's mother, and the embodiment of Habsburg rules. She criticized Sisi for smacking her lips while eating, for not speaking Latin, for laughing aloud at banquets, and worst of all for failing to produce an heir. In 1855, Sisi gave birth to her first daughter Sophie. Before she could hold her, Sophie took the baby away for proper mothering, claiming the empress was too young to care for a child. A year later, her second daughter Gisela was born, and taken away too. In 1857, Sisi took both daughters to visit Hungary with Franz. Her eldest daughter Sophie suddenly died. Sophie, the empress, blamed her for neglecting the child due to horseback riding. During that time, Sisi filled her diary with black dots, writing only one sentence: "The air here suffocates me." To reclaim her maternal rights, Sisi launched her first rebellion by having more children. In 1858, she finally gave birth to Crown Prince Rudolph. This time she clung to the baby, refusing to let go, even threatening to starve herself. Sophie reluctantly agreed to let her participate in raising him, but this son became her new shackle. Sophie and ministers watched Rudolph's every move. When Sisi wanted to teach him horseback riding, they said the future emperor should learn Latin. When she wanted to take him to Bavaria, they said he must receive Orthodox education in Vienna. What crushed her even more was Franz gradually siding with his mother. He'd tell her, "Sisi, you need to follow rules." The sweetness between husband and wife slowly turned into silence at the dinner table. At 23, Sisi developed severe tuberculosis, nearly a death sentence then. Doctors said she needed fresh air. Sophie seized the chance to send her to Madeira for recovery, actually to strip her of queenly power. But Sisi seized this opportunity. She refused court doctors and traveled to the Mediterranean with a few confidants. There, she rode horses, swam, and sunbathed daily, miraculously recovering. This escape made her realize only by leaving Vienna could she survive. From then on, she became Europe's most famous wandering empress, spending half the year away from the palace, either riding in Hungarian estates, sailing on Greek islands, or hunting in Bavarian forests. Her suitcases always packed with riding gear and poetry books, rarely court robes. To rebel against court oppression, Sisi turned herself into a walking artwork. She starved herself, eating only a few oranges and milk daily, maintaining a 50 centimeters waist for years, even needing servants to tighten her corset for half an hour. She nourished her hair with olive oil and eggs, spending 3 hours combing it daily, even lifting it while sleeping to avoid deformation. She practiced fencing weightlifting and could still jump a 1.5-meter obstacle on horseback at 60. Maids whispered the Empress isn't preserving beauty, she's fighting something. Actually, she was fighting the disciplined self. When galloping across Hungarian plains, wind blowing through her hair, only then did she feel like that Bavarian wild girl again. But the queen's identity never left. In 1867, Sisi leveraged her influence in Hungary, persuading Franz to establish Austria-Hungary, granting Hungary equal status. She was then crowned Queen of Hungary, her political peak, but also trapping her further. She became the empire's symbol, expected to mediate every rebellion and diplomatic crisis. She wrote in her diary, "I'm like a marionette with strings in others' hands." More cruelly, her family collapsed. In 1889, her beloved son Rudolf committed suicide with his lover. At only 30, Sisi didn't speak for 3 days after hearing the news. From then on, wearing only black. Even her jewelry turned to obsidian for mourning. She told Franz our fairy tale ended long ago. After Rudolf's death, Sisi became a ghost in the palace, skipping almost all ceremonies, spending all her time traveling, from North Africa to the Middle East, bringing only crates of books and a sword on board. On September 10, 1898, she was walking by Lake Geneva, when Luigi Lucchini, an Italian anarchist, suddenly stabbed her chest with a sharpened awl. She didn't even scream, just said something poked me, and collapsed, her heart pierced. She never knew. The assassin wasn't targeting her, just wanted to kill royalty for fame. And she happened to be there. Sisi's life was a violent clash between individual nature and era's shackles. Her first half's fairy tale, hidden Bavaria's estate sunlight. Her latter half's cage, built by crown duty and lost freedom. Movies portray her as a love legend, but the real her was more like a lonely rebel, using beauty as armor, travel as escape, madness as protest. As she wrote in her poem, "I'm a leaf in the wind wanting to fly but tangled by branches." When that all struck, perhaps she finally broke free. No more Empress Elizabeth, only that girl named Sisi, returning to Bavaria's forests, chasing butterflies, never looking back.